Today, I'm going to show you how to create these edible gelatinous cubes inspired by Onward and Dungeons & Dragons. The things we will need to create our edible gelatinous cube is 2.5 cups of boiling water. We will need 2 6-ounce boxes of Lime Jello. I have some bone and skull sprinkles, a spoon for mixing, some paper towel. I have some cooking spray. You can use any type of release agent you'd want. You just want something clear that's not going to show up on your Jello. And then I have a square ice mold here that's silicone that we are going to use to make our cubes. Let's get started. So the first thing I'm going to do is prep my mold. So anytime you're using a mold, it's good to spray it with a little bit of the nonstick cooking spray, but then you want to wipe out any of the excess. We just want it to have a very, very light coating. We don't want to see droplets of the oil or the spray that would form on your actual Jello. We just want it to be a nice release agent. And then we're also going to end up putting our finished Jello in a warm sink bath for like 10 or 15 seconds just to help soften up the sides a little bit to release it even easier. But the cooking spray really helps make it easy. So I'm just going to do a light spritz in each one. And then I'm just going to take the paper towel and just kind of help wipe it around the inside of the mold so that it leaves it nice and prepped. And now that we have our mold prepped and we have taken the excess oil out, we can now start to boil our water and add our gelatin. Okay, so I have my 2.5 cups of boiling water here, and I just microwaved the water, but if you want to do this over the stove, you definitely could. And we are making the Jello Jigglers recipe because we want this stiff enough that it'll keep its shape really good, as well as suspend our items in the cube. So at this point, all we're going to do is take our 2 packets of the Lime Jello, and we are just going to dump them in. And then we're going to stir to dissolve our gelatin. Now, the biggest difference between Jigglers and the regular Jello recipe is that it has a little less water. It's all boiling water. We're not going to use any cold water with this because it helps it stiffen up and make a harder Jello. And that's really it. So it will make less than what a regular Jello recipe would because you are using less water, but it makes really great Jigglers that are fun to bounce around and hold their shape. Okay, so once your gelatin is completely dissolved, it does take a couple minutes to get to this point, we can then pour it into our mold. So we are going to pour it into the mold, and then because we want to suspend our little skulls and bones in our gelatinous cube, and if you were able to find some little sword or shield candy, by all means you can add any of that as well, but since it's not quite close to Halloween yet, it's very hard to find some of those sprinkles right now, but as we get closer to Halloween, you'll be able to find them no problem. But we're going to be able to put this in the fridge. We're going to put it in for an hour, and then we're going to come back and check it, because if our Jello is starting to set up, it will allow us to add our candy to it, and it'll suspend it instead of it just sinking to the bottom. So it's very important that we wait a good hour, hour and a half, just to make sure that everything is ready to go. And we're just going to pour this in. Okay, so now that we have our cubes all filled up with the Jello, at this point, if you see any little bubbles form, before we put it in the fridge, we just kind of want to let those all settle to the top, and we want to take and scrape them off with our spoon, or they'll end up leaving those little bubbles behind. Now, if this is the bottom of the cube, who cares? But if it's potentially going to be the top of the cube, we just want to make sure that we remove some of that little excess bubbles off of the top. And some of that you will get from the oil we greased the mold with, but some of that will end up dissipating as it starts to harden in the fridge. Okay, so at this point, we're going to take our mold and put it in the fridge for at least an hour. I'm going to check and see if it's starting to get a little stiff. And if it is, then I will bring it back out here and we'll start to place our skull and bone candy into it. Okay, so the jigglers have been in the fridge for about an hour now. And as you can see, they have started to set up. It's no longer liquidy. And this is the point where we're going to go ahead and start to put some of our little bone and skull little pieces of candy in. And I picked these up on Amazon, as well as my ice cube tray. And my ice cube tray actually came as a set, which also included a ball ice cube tray, which I plan on using later down the line in another cooking tutorial. So if you guys do decide to pick this up, just know that the round one not only makes really cool ice cubes, but we're going to be able to use it in another cooking video later down the line. So what we're going to do is, I forgot to mention, I'm going to be using a cooking skewer, is we're going to take our little bones and skulls and we are going to make a little hole with the skewer and we are literally just going to press them in. It takes a sec to get it in there just because the jello is so thick. That just means it'll suspend that much better. And then we're just going to press the little bone or skull right in there. Let me see if you guys can see this. See how our little bone is suspended in there? And we're just going to continue to do that and randomly place our little skulls and bones throughout our gelatinous cubes. Okay, so I have now placed the amount of skulls and bones that I wanted to place in my little gelatinous cubes here. I wanted to make sure it wasn't too many. I also wanted to make sure that they were at different heights, and that just meant that I pushed them down a little further and, you know, kind of put the bones at different levels and things like that. So now we're going to go ahead and put this back in the fridge for at least 2 more hours, but it's better if it's a little bit longer just to make sure that it completely finishes firming up. And all of the little holes that we created while putting these in will end up sealing themselves off as it finishes curing. Okay, so it has been 3 hours since we originally put our Jello mold into the fridge, and to help release it, we're actually going to put it into some hot water. Make sure that the water does not go up over the top or hit the top of your Jello. We just want to put it in there for 10 or 15 seconds or so to help release the edges a little bit easier. And I've got a little paper towel off to the side here. I'm going to dab it on. And then we're going to put it upside down. And I'm just going to slowly start to wiggle my mold. Pull it out to release our gelatinous cubes. Oh, I can hear them starting to go. Come on. 2 are like halfway out. Oh, there we go. So as you guys can see, they bounce just like a gelatinous cube would in like Dungeons and Dragons or even in Onward. And we have our little skulls and bones preserved in there. So cool. I'm going to unmold the rest of these. Okay, so I have all 6 of my little gelatinous cubes unmolded, and I just want you guys to see, one, how bouncy and jiggly these are, which I feel like is just perfect for the consistency of a gelatinous cube, but also just how well all of the little candy pieces we put in there suspended in the Jello. And part of that is because we waited that hour to put it in there. If we would have done it sooner, it would have sunk to the bottom. Now, the candies that I used have like fake blood on them. And some of that actually like came off as we were pushing it in. But I think that really adds an awesome little detail, like it's actually melting the skin off of the bones. I know that sounds kind of gross, but that's kind of the point of the gelatinous cube. So I just kind of think it adds to the look of these. And that is going to be it. This one is super easy. It just takes a little bit of time and planning to make sure that you pop those skulls and bones in at just the right time. And then just a little bit of time to unmold them. But these would make a really great snack while you're watching Onward. I feel like Ian and Barley would definitely approve of these. Or if you were playing Dungeons and Dragons, or if you ever have played Dungeons and Dragons, I feel like these would be a super fun snack and might bring back a little bit of nostalgia for one of your first formidable foes that you come against in the game. But yeah, I feel like these are super fun, really easy, and definitely will be a talking piece among kids and adults alike. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Do you feel like these are some gelatinous cubes that you would like to eat? And hit that thumbs up if you guys like this video. If you haven't subscribed, please do so, and we will catch you guys later. Thanks so much.